areas through permitted development. I'm saying to local planning and local authorities, get your plan in order so you decide based on the affordability and the
Angela Rayner's recent interview with Kuenssberg turned out to be one of those moments that stick in your mind, not because it went as planned, but because it showed her determination and the massive challenges she faces.
Applications can be, in some cases, waved through, in some places just speeded up. But why do you think that you and Keir Starmer, sitting in Westminster, know better than local...
Watching her, you could see she was there to make a strong case for Labour's ambitious housing plans. And let's not pretend it's an easy sell, not with the housing crisis being as tangled and deep-rooted as it is. But Angela didn't shy away from the fight. She came prepared, armed with figures and a vision that, honestly, feels like a breath of fresh air compared to the empty rhetoric we've heard for years.
There is a real issue with things like arm's length government bodies, people like Natural England, the Environment Agency, if they want to build those 1.5 million homes. I do hope the Prime Minister's good to his word and he actually tackles that, because irrespective of the rhetoric, if he doesn't take those hard decisions, it's going to be very difficult to meet those targets.
Angela talked about Labour's promise to build 1.5 million homes. That's no small feat. It's the kind of bold thinking we haven't seen since the post-war building boom of the 1950s. The housing crisis in the UK has been allowed to fester for decades.
If they follow the National Planning Policy Framework and that local plan, then we shouldn't have it stuck in the system for years, and therefore we're going to push ahead.
But council leaders, including Labour leaders, have looked at your plans already. You've had your consultation, and they're responsible.
Leaders from all parties have come and gone, promising the world and delivering next to nothing. Angela knows this history, and yet here she is, standing tall and saying Labour can break this cycle. That takes guts, especially when you're up against critics eager to poke holes in your plans at every opportunity.
It is a stretch target, but we're determined to change the planning regulations, to invest more into affordable homes programme and to deliver the housing we desperately need. Keir Starmer last week as Prime Minister was very clear and levelling with the public.
During the interview, Angela emphasised Labour's strategy to simplify the planning process and bring neglected brownfield sites back to life. She spoke with a passion that made it clear she was not just spouting lines. She genuinely believed this was the way forward. The mandatory targets for councils, streamlining bureaucracy and investing in affordable housing. It's a comprehensive approach.
Public were able to feed into that consultation, so we'll have clarity on the National Planning Policy Framework. Then we're having mandatory local plans, so local areas will have to come forward with what they think their housing needs are and how they're going to deliver it.
What stood out to me was her insistence on making the process less subjective, something that has been a major stumbling block for years. By creating a clear national framework, Labour is trying to ensure developments don't get bogged down in endless local disputes.
Framework and within the local plan, then we should be able to streamline that process and get those developments.
But if you cut through the jargon, what is going to happen is that you are in some cases going to force councils to build in parts of the country where they might not want to, and they believe that...
And let's be real, those local disputes are a massive part of the problem. It's easy for councils and local MPs to say no to developments because they're worried about upsetting voters in their constituencies.
Show our audience this. This is you as a local MP in 2017 opposing developments.
You could have got me with my eyes open.
Well, there you are. There's perhaps a better photograph.
You see how young we were, we're little lads now, they're grown up.
Angela herself has faced questions about this. Kuenssberg didn't hold back, pulling up a moment from 2017 when Angela, as a local MP, opposed a development her constituents didn't want. It was a gotcha moment, sure, but Angela handled it with grace. She pointed out that the opposition wasn't just about saying no for the sake of it, it was about fighting for a better alternative. That's the kind of nuance critics conveniently ignore.
Out promises that they know some might be really hard to hit.
Well, I was going to say it did remind me of Rishi's kind of 5 pledges, which I think even today, well, in today, I mean, I couldn't necessarily tell you all 5 of them today, and obviously when you've got pillars and aims and missions, I think generally the public...
What really gets me is how Angela has been attacked for Labour's commitment to ensuring these homes go to those in need, regardless of their background. The claim that 5 out of 7 houses will be allocated to migrants is not just misleading, it's a deliberate attempt to stir division. Angela has been clear that Labour's priority is fairness.
A long-term promise to hit net zero by 2050, where no more emissions are added to the atmosphere. It's the Climate Change Committee's job to watch that progress like hawks, and also, as we've been discussing, to make sure that ministers are preparing the country.
People in need, whether they've been on a council housing list for years or are new to this country, deserve a place to call home. Housing isn't a zero-sum game where one group's gain is another's loss. Angela's stance reflects compassion and a commitment to addressing real needs, even when it's politically risky.
Framework, national democracy, we were elected to build the 1.5 million homes, so therefore we've bolted in the consultation. What we've seen, Laura, is because we haven't had these
Laura pressed her hard on the feasibility of building 1.5 million homes, when over 1 million homes with planning permission have yet to be built. That's a tough question, and Angela didn't shy away from it. She acknowledged the challenges but stressed Labour's determination to fix the bottlenecks. It's not just about giving permission, it's about making sure those permissions lead to actual homes. Labour's plan includes working closely with local authorities and developers to unlock stalled projects. Angela is right to point out that this isn't just a numbers game. It's about creating a system that works, something that's been broken for far too long.
We have a framework here that delivers the housing and infrastructure we desperately need.
But doesn't that take a really important element away from how our country is built and changed? Democracy.
Critics love to harp on about the supposed lack of funding for Labour's housing plans. Where's the money coming from, they ask, as if they've never heard of prioritising budgets or making tough decisions. Angela didn't let this distract her. She knows the money is there if the political will is strong enough. Billions are being wasted on temporary housing and private landlord subsidies. Redirecting those funds to build permanent homes is not just smart, it's necessary. Angela's focus on efficiency and cutting through waste shows she's thinking practically, not just ideologically.
The country does desperately need more homes, and the government has promised an extra 1.5 million by 2029. That's easy to say, it's maybe 1.5 million.
The accusations of over-promising and under-delivering are nothing new in politics, but they're especially grating when aimed at someone like Angela, who is trying to tackle a problem that others have ignored. It's easy to criticise from the sidelines, but where were these voices when the housing crisis was spiralling out of control? Angela's willingness to take ownership and push forward, even in the face of relentless scepticism, speaks volumes about her character.
Permission since 2015 and then haven't been built. So what's going on there? I mean, you're not actually guaranteeing that anything's going to get built. There's lots of places where there's planning permission and nothing's happened.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that's why we brought forward.
What impressed me most was how Angela stayed composed under pressure. Laura Kuenssberg is known for her incisive questioning, and this interview was no exception. At one point, Laura pushed Angela on whether Labour could guarantee even a single extra house would be built. It was the kind of question designed to trip someone up, but Angela didn't falter.
And I think Ben touched on it. There are things we have to do in order to stop these developments being stuck in the system, and we're determined to deliver that.
One of those, and we'll hear more.
She calmly explained how Labour's policies would create the conditions for building, from funding social housing providers to collaborating on large development sites. It's not about waving a magic wand, it's about doing the hard work to make things happen. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.